The rumor started in the Austin paddock like a spark in a room full of gasoline. Francesco Bagnaia had reportedly asked Ducati to let him try the GP26 with Marquez's setup. Not the data, not the maps, the actual bike. The idea is radical in its simplicity. Pecco on Marc's bike, Marc on Pecco's bike. Same track, same conditions, same tires, and then the stopwatch tells everyone who is right and who is wrong in the conflict that has been tearing apart the Ducati box for 3 Grands Prix. If Pecco goes faster on Marc's bike, the problem was the setup. If Pecco goes the same on Marc's bike, the problem is Pecco. If Marc slows down on Pecco's bike, the problem was always the setup, and Ducati built the GP26 around one rider. If Marc goes equally fast on Pecco's bike, the problem was always Pecco. 4 combinations, 4 verdicts, and Ducati does not want to discover any of the 4 because all 4 of them hurt. In today's video, we are going to explain why this bike swap is not just a technical experiment. It is a psychological test that would expose the internal tensions of the most powerful box in the entire paddock. There is the reason Pecco is asking for it, and Marc probably does not want it. There is the reason Ducati cannot agree without admitting the bike was built for only one of them. There is Rigamonti saying we always share data, while the reality tells a completely different story. And there is the central paradox. The swap would settle everything in one afternoon, but nobody has the courage to actually do it. Stay with us until the end, because this goes deeper than you think. Bagnaia's request comes from the frustration of a man who has tried everything and found no answer, and the one thing he has never tried is his teammate's bike. After Austin, Pecco said he gave everything he had. Finishing 9th, 12 seconds behind the winner, was a clear and painful disappointment. He pointed to the rear tire as the key factor. He talked about a lack of grip, a bike that would not turn, a tire that destroyed itself lap after lap. The engineers changed his maps, his geometry, his balance, his braking, his engine settings. Nothing worked. The one variable they never touched is the most obvious one, the complete setup of Marquez's bike. The different anti-spin calibration. The frame stiffness adjusted differently. The weight distribution shifted by a few millimeters. The throttle map with a sharper, more nervous response. Every single parameter tuned around Marc's riding style. Pecco wants to try that complete package, not to copy Marc, but to understand whether the problem lives in the setup or inside himself. It is the most courageous question a rider can ask. Is the problem me? Marc, on the other side, has every reason in the world to not want this swap, and his silence is more telling than any statement he could make. Marquez on the GP26 with his own setup has found a working relationship with the bike. Not perfect, not at the level of 2025, but functional. He won the sprint in Brazil. He fought for the podium when his physical condition allowed it. He has shown the range of the champion he is. But if he gets on Pecco's bike with its conservative setup and slows down, he confirms that the problem was always the setup, and that Ducati built the GP26 around him at Bagnaia's expense. If he gets on it and goes equally fast, he proves that his talent exists completely independent of the setup. In both cases, Marc risks something. Either he loses the speed advantage that was always technical, or he exposes that Pecco's weakness was always human. Either way, the dynamics inside the box change, and Marc has absolutely no interest in changing dynamics that are currently working in his favor. The technical core of the swap is the exact point where the science of motorcycle setup meets the politics of the garage, and where the truth becomes more frightening than the lie. Marquez's GP26 runs a more permissive anti-spin system, which allows him to open the throttle earlier out of corners, forcing traction in his aggressive style. The power delivery is tuned for a sharp, nervous response at the wrist. The engine braking is calibrated for a quick release that loads the front tire exactly the way Marc prefers to enter corners. Bagnaia's GP26 runs a stricter anti-spin system that protects the tire but limits aggression on corner exit. The power delivery is smooth and progressive, giving Pecco the control that his precise riding style demands. The engine braking is more gradual, preserving stability on entry. 2 completely opposite philosophies on the same motorcycle, like 2 musicians tuning the same piano in different keys. The swap would reveal whether the key Marc is using is the one the GP26 naturally prefers, or whether the bike can genuinely play both melodies equally well. That answer would reshape Ducati's entire development direction for years to come. Rigamonti denied any secrets between the 2 sides of the garage, but the denial itself is the proof that the suspicion exists. We always share data. Marc's success comes from his capacity to adapt. Marquez's track engineer was forced to answer a question that nobody should have needed to ask if the answer were obvious. If you truly share everything, why is one rider asking to try the other's bike? That request only exists because the perception inside the garage is that the two bikes are not equivalent, that Marc's setup has received different attention. That development in recent weeks has moved in a direction that favors the style of the reigning world champion. Rigamonti can deny it, but the telemetry is shared and Pecco reads it. He sees the sectors where Marc is faster. He sees the corners where that setup produces better results. He sees the gap. And he is not asking out of suspicion, he is asking out of desperation. Then Tardozzi added fuel to the fire with a statement that landed in the garage like a slap across Bagnaia's face. We want Pecco to be more aggressive, like Marquez. The team principle of a triple world champion asking that champion not to be himself, not to find his own solution, but to copy the riding style of his teammate. For Pecco, who built his entire career on precision and cleanliness, hearing the words "ride like Marc" is a denial of his own identity. It is Ducati telling him, your way no longer works, adapt or disappear. The bike swap is Pecco's answer. Give me his bike, and I will prove the problem is not my style. It is your setup. A duel between a rider and his own factory, dressed up as a technical experiment. If the swap happened at Jerez, it would be the most revealing moment of this season, and perhaps of Ducati's recent history. Jerez has slow corners where Pecco's corner speed could shine even on an aggressive setup, and long braking zones where Marc's style might suffer on a conservative one. It is the perfect circuit for an experiment that would expose both philosophies completely. One afternoon of testing, 20 laps each, the stopwatch running, the engineers comparing data in real time. And at the end of the session, the answer that everyone is searching for and nobody wants to hear, because that answer cannot be neutral. Either it proves Pecco right and condemns the technical choices made by Dall'Igna, or it proves Ducati right and condemns Bagnaia's current level. There is no middle ground. And the absence of any middle ground is precisely why this swap will never actually happen. Di Giannantonio is the ghost at the table that makes this entire situation even more explosive. Digia, on the Satellite GP26, is the best Ducati rider on the grid right now. Fourth in the championship with 50 points. His setup is neither Marc's nor Pecco's, it is his own, and it works. If Digia with a completely third setup is going faster than both factory riders, then the swap between Marc and Pecco becomes irrelevant, because the problem would not be in one setup or the other. It would be in the fact that neither factory rider is currently riding the GP26 the way the bike wants to be ridden, and the only one doing it correctly is the satellite rider who carries none of the political weight on his shoulders. That conclusion flips the entire meaning of the swap, from technical solution to truth test that nobody wants to face. Bagnaia is asking to try Marquez's bike because he has reached the point where he no longer knows if the problem is him or the machine. It is the most honest and most painful question a champion can ask himself. Ducati will not agree, because whatever result the swap produces, the damage outweighs the benefit. If Pecco goes fast on Marc's bike, Ducati must admit they went in the wrong development direction. If Pecco goes slow, even on Marc's bike, Bagnaia must admit the problem is inside himself. In both cases, the fracture in the box becomes irreparable. The bike swap is a truth serum, and in the MotoGP paddock, the truth is never welcome, because the truth forces you to choose. In 2026, Ducati has chosen not to choose, to keep both riders in the fog of uncertainty, to give nobody the win and nobody the defeat. And to keep losing against an Aprilia that meanwhile does not need to swap anything, because their bike works for every rider, while the Ducati no longer seems to work properly for anyone. So what do you think? Could the bike swap genuinely relaunch Bagnaia, or will Marquez stay dominant no matter what machine he is on? Write your answer in the comments and share this video with the friends in your life who follow MotoGP. If you enjoyed this kind of analysis, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you never miss our latest coverage. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and we will see you in the next episode right here on Passione GP. Do not forget to subscribe and activate the bell so you do not miss what is coming next.